Hey, it's ShawNshawN here. I'm here to review the movie Venom. So what I think of Venom, it had a pretty interesting plot. They don't use... So there's a couple different plots in the comic books. One version, when they very first came out, was, Peter Parker, he was Spiderman, they were in a different galaxy. His suit gets all torn and ripped, and Thor and a couple other Marvel heroes are like, hey, just put on this other alien costume. They puts this alien costume on, it turns black. He's like, oh, that's kind of weird, but it allows him to change clothing. But then he realizes later it's actually an alien life form, right? So in the comic books, he eventually strips it out, and then it goes on to infect multiple different people. So in this version, they've taken Eddie Brock, who's also in the comic books, and he gets infected by this symbiote virus. In the movie, they've changed it up a little bit. These viruses do come from outer space, which is true to the comics. In this case, it's this really famous geneticist, and he's got all these great genetic kind of inventions, and then he goes in to become a rocket scientist, similar to Elon Musk, right? The comic version. So he sends a rocket up in space, they come back, and they land with these 4 different life forms, right? He's trying with animals, and then, the animals kind of take it, but then they die off, so he's like, oh, what are we going to do? Let's move on to human life forms. So he starts immediately experimenting with live humans, which obviously is highly illegal. But it makes you wonder, like during World War II, you had the Nazi experiments on humans, so how far away is it from truth? Probably not happening, but, if you look back in history, there's quite a lot of different sketchy things with governments experimenting with humans. So he goes on, he pulls in these homeless people and tries it on them, and none of them are taking the virus, because they're just not strong contenders. That's how they end up being homeless, supposedly. So eventually Brock is sending this reporter, and he had a job in New York, got fired. He's in San Francisco, it's kind of in his last chance, and so he's known for breaking really hard breaking news and really diving deep into the subject. So he comes in and investigates this life science or life organization. I wasn't sure what the name of the organization run by his this scientist, Carlton Drake, just geneticist. So he interviews him, and then the guy's like, he starts asking about these hidden cases that he found on his wife's files, which he shouldn't have had access to, but he got to, accidentally at night. So he asked him, hey, what about these human experiments? And then he's like, you're done. There's no... And then he literally calls everyone he knows, and this guy's fired from his job. Well, his fiancée gets fired, so his fiancée is like, we're done. You got me fired over this stupid story that doesn't have any legs to it. And so he's completely destroyed. Basically that's, going into the second act, his life's over with, right? And then this scientist, she's working with Drake, and she just feeling really qualmy about using live human subjects. He's killing all these people. It's just, this guy Drake's just crazy. So she reaches out to Eddie, and Eddie's like, I don't want to talk. Whatever. I'm done with this. And he's like, nah, well, maybe I'll reach out. He doesn't really feel right about it, especially he sees this robbery in this Chinese grocer that he always goes to. She gets robbed, basically held up by the local mafia, and then he's not feeling good about it. So he reaches out, they get in there, and he starts snooping around, and they get separated, right? And so he accidentally releases the virus and gets infected himself. Dumbass. This guy's like completely loser, right? So he escapes, and they're trying to... So the rest of the film's kind of hunting him down, kind of where it goes from there. Interesting enough, there was a virus that escaped earlier in the film before it gets to Eddie Brock. My cats are going crazy. Okay, so my cats almost killed each other. I guess it's like hunting time, right? So this guy loses everything, right? He loses his job, his fiancée, which is very true to the comic books. In the comics, he loses his wife in New York, and this is kind of his second chance in San Francisco. Oh, they're going at it again. So another interesting part is then this original virus got loose and infected multiple people, and then it finally made its way back to San Francisco and goes after this doctor, because it wants... And then you think it's just to kill the doctor, right? But it's actually to get back to the planet where it came from. At this point, Venom, this Eddie Brock, he's infested with this guy. He's killing people, trying to escape. For whatever reason, the virus feels sorry for him. Which is like totally crazy, right? So they have this weird bonding. like telepathic or whatever, because they're bonded. And I was like, oh, we got to stop this other viruses. They're actually going to bring back 1 million of us and then wipe out your whole planet, right? So for whatever reason, Venom likes the planet, even though he's like this alien parasite. So I don't know. An alien parasite with a conscience, right? Not impossible, but it just seems kind of silly. But anyway, it's a pretty fun film. You know, as far as the CGI, you know, this film really wouldn't exist pre-1995, 98, pre-basically Matrix, you know, until you had the CGI really at that level. You really couldn't do a film like this with all the special effects and jump scenes and hopping around, and, you know, the body completely morphs right into different shapes and everything. So you really didn't have this technology pre-90s. It would have been totally hokey and wouldn't have worked. So obviously no one even thought of this as a storyline. But of course, as you get CGI further and further along, all these Marvel foods just boom, 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 pop out. And they are maybe doing the Marvel movies a little bit too much. You know, PewDiePie mentioned in one of his videos, like, I hate all these Marvel movies. Because the plot's always the same, right? Yeah, it's a comic book, right? They're written for 13-year-olds. If you're writing for 13-year-olds, you know, people without, before they're dating, you know, the plots are going to be like strong heroes, anti-villains, they fight them up, they win the beautiful girl. You know, they're kind of a romantic version of a 13-year-old, right? So obviously the films kind of reflect this really kind of cheesy romanticism of 13-year-olds, but it's the ideal market, right? The kids read these books. Hopefully I didn't read Venom, but I heard about him before, so I knew a little bit about him because I read Spiderman when I was younger. But maybe I knew back then, I forgot, but he wasn't a primary character. He was just kind of this offshoot. But yeah, it's pretty interesting. They bring these to life. It's weird because since I come from an earlier time in the sense that before the CGI got all crazy, and it was really, I grew up on like Star Wars, so there's a lot of special effects, but a lot of it was still with models and physical form. So I kind of come from that world where it has to seem real or possible, and then you see Venom and he has like these crazy like shark teeth and a tongue out to here, like like it totally doesn't make sense. But you look at the comic book, that's how Venom is in the comic book. His eyes literally go out to here in the comic book, you know, so they're not exaggerating really the form of Venom. It just is ridiculous in the comic, and so they're just being true to the comics, right? So you know, for me, it kind of like, maybe they take it too far, kind of like a little realism, but you know, maybe I'm just getting too old, you know. Anyway, I think it's a pretty good fun movie. You might see it once or twice. It's just kind of like one of those, you're stuck at Christmas at home with the relatives, you're gonna see a movie, right? So this would be kind of one of those movies where you just kind of go out, have some fun with the family. But yeah, I think it's pretty okay. Nothing shocking and nothing mind-altering, but you know, it's a fun movie. So hopefully you guys like it. If you want to subscribe, subscribe below, and I hope to see you on the next movie review.